Hello everyone and welcome to Lick Library. My name's Lee Fuge, and in this video today we're going to be learning 5 really cool tips from 5 very underrated 80s guitar heroes. So each of these tricks and techniques are things that each of these players utilised at different stages of their career. So when I use the term underrated, I don't mean that these guitar players do fly under the radar. Some of them do, but most of these guys you've probably heard of. And if you haven't heard of the guitar player themselves, you've probably heard of the band that they play with. And that's part of the reason why they might be underrated, because there may be another player in that band or the frontman of that band that may steal all the spotlight away from the greatness that these players have. So we're going to be looking at 5 techniques that each of these players bring to the table. We're going to be looking at Warren DeMartini from Ratt, Izzy Stradlin from Guns N' Roses, CeCe DeVille from Poison. We're also going to be looking at Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi and Steve Stevens from Billy Idol. Now, some of those names, as I said, may be familiar already. We're going to check out those techniques. Each of the techniques and each of the players are timestamped down below in the description. So if you want to fast forward to any section, you can go down there and hit the timestamp and go forward to that player. So the first player we're going to be checking out is Warren DeMartini from the band Ratt. Ratt had some big hits in the 80s. They were a little bit more under the radar in terms of the commercial success of the 80s, but Warren DeMartini is a great lead guitar player. He took a lot of his influence from guys like Michael Schenker and Dokken's George Lynch, so he's got a lot of chops, but he's also great with restraint. The technique we're going to be checking out is Warren's use of vibrato. Now, as guitar players, whenever we do vibrato, we tend to play a note and add it straight away. So whenever our lick is, we may throw that vibrato straight in. So what Warren would do with vibrato is he would actually let the note ring a little bit before applying the vibrato. This just adds some breathing space to it, but it also gives it a different feel. So we get the note at one consistent pitch and then the vibrato would come in. He would also use a very wide vibrato, so we're not doing anything subtle here, we're doing big vibrato movements. So if we put that into a Warren DeMartini style lick, it's going to sound like this. So that lick was just a C minor pentatonic lick, but I'm coming down the scale in parallel string groupings. So I'm starting with a bend on the 11 of the B, then the parallel string groupings, and I'm hitting that 10 on the G twice at the end, but I'm letting it ring before applying the vibrato. We can use this principle in other areas of our playing as well. It works great on string bends. So when you do a string bend, let the bend ring at its pitch before you apply the vibrato. The second player we're going to talk about is Izzy Stradlin from Guns N' Roses. Now, Izzy is the guy that kind of brought the rock and roll attitude to Guns N' Roses. We all know Slash as being the lead guitar hero, the guy that does all the fancy stuff, but underneath that, the loose kind of rock and roll swagger that Guns N' Roses had came from Izzy. So he has a very, very loose rhythm style. So at this point, really, there's not really anything to learn here as such. This is more of a concept-based idea. So what we're going to talk about is how Izzy would approach rhythm guitar. So when we think of rhythm guitar, we think tight, rhythmic, and really kind of driving the song along. But Izzy was very into guys like Keith Richards, who would always kind of sit behind the beat a little bit or push the beat a little bit. So there's always a very loose feel to his playing. So let's say we're playing a simple E to A power chord progression. Izzy would never play it that straight. With Izzy, there would be a bit of a swing. You'll notice there I'm just kind of coming on and off the diad in the power chord to allow some open string noise to ring in. And I'm also adding this G note here, just a little kind of passing note. I'm just giving that a little quarter tone bend. Izzy would use these kind of little tricks to move chords. It takes it away from that rigid chord sound, and it adds a little bit of a swing to it. He would also apply this when he's doing big chord changes. So let's say I'm going from a G to a D. I would also add open strings between those chords, for instance. You'll notice I'm hitting an open string on that last up. This is just another one of those techniques that can kind of make your rhythm feel quite loose. When you are playing that Izzy straddling kind of rhythm, try not to be too metronomically tight. Allow yourself to have that kind of loose, natural feel. Allow your arm to be quite loose when you're strumming because you don't want it to be too machine-like. This is definitely a great way to add a bit more swagger and a bit more of that kind of Guns N' Roses rock and roll type sound to your riffs. The third guitar player we're going to talk about is Steve Stevens. Now, Steve Stevens is best known for his work with Billy Idol. This is one of the reasons why Steve is quite underrated, because he is a phenomenal guitar player and he has an incredible discography to back that up. But we mostly think of the artists that he plays with, like Billy Idol, for instance. Alongside his work with Billy Idol, Steve Stevens also got a great career as a session guitar player. So he's played with Motley Crue's Vince Neil, he played guitar on the Top Gun soundtrack, he's also played with Michael Jackson, he's played with a huge amount of artists. The technique we're going to look at is the technique he uses for the song Rebel Yell, which is a twin part that he plays himself. So you've got a moving bass line and a static upper line. This is a really cool technique that involves using your thumb to play a walking bass line. There I'm playing the 7 of the E, the 9 of the A, and the 7 and 9 on the D. Alongside this, he's playing this double stop here on the 10th fret of the B and E, with the index finger and the middle finger. We're accenting some of the notes as well. But what Steve Stevens does is he puts those two things together. It's quite a hard technique to do. You have to start slow with that kind of thing. But that technique is great for bringing in some different kind of picking textures into your playing. You can write different riffs for that. You can have a stagnant double stop line like I did there. And then you could just play different bass lines. It takes a little while and a bit of practice to build up the coordination there, but it's a great technique to get under your fingers. The fourth guitar player we're going to talk about is CC DeVille from the band Poison. Now, Poison were pretty much hair metal megastars. They had some huge hits. CC was known as a bit of a rough on the edges player, especially live. He was very sloppy and very kind of blues orientated, but he did have some quite good chops when he needed them. He could always pull it out the bag whenever he needed to. So the technique of CC's that I think is really cool to learn is his use of the whammy bar to add scoops to a guitar solo lick. So let's say we're playing in the key of E minor. What we're going to do is we're going to add some scoops to this. So to do a scoop, first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to get the whammy bar in this position here so we can actually access it easily when we're playing. So you want to tighten the bar up so it stays there. We're going to push the bar down before we pick a note. That way when we pick the note, we're going to get the sound of the note with the bar down. We're going to pick the note and then release the bar. So it's kind of like a reverse dive bomb. We're picking the note and going up in pitch to where the note should start. So in context, we might have something like this. So on the surface, it's really just a simple rock lick, but I'm just adding these bar scoops. And it really gives it that CC DeVille style flavour. It's a cool technique to use because it adds a slightly different vocalization to your guitar licks. CC would use this a lot in power ballads, so if you want to hear this in action, check out the guitar solo from the track Every Rose Has Its Thorn, and you'll hear that in action. The final guitar player we're going to talk about, you'll definitely have heard of this guy, is Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi. Now, Bon Jovi are a huge band, so you may be wondering, why is Richie even considered to be slightly underrated? But really, Richie Sambora is not really known as everyone's favourite guitar hero. He's known as a great songwriter. We all know those huge Bon Jovi hits. But Richie has some great chops, and there are some really cool techniques he does. The technique that I want to focus on is this really cool thing he does in a couple of guitar solos, most notably the solo for You Give Love a Bad Name. We'll be doing a two-handed tapping lick, but we're sliding the tap note up. This is a really cool lick. It sounds like this, and then we'll break it down. So to play this lick, we would start out like a regular two-handed tapping lick, where I'm tapping a higher note, in this case the 13 of the B, and I'm doing a hammer on from the 8 to the 11. Pretty standard tapping lick there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this hand going like a trill, and then I'm going to rhythmically hit my taps, and then every alternate tap, I'm maybe doing this. You can just choose your distance there, it doesn't matter, because we're doing a quick slide and kind of a pull off. So we get almost like a pick slide type effect. Really fun technique, just adds a bit of interest to your tapping licks, and it looks quite impressive too. And that was one of the big things with a lot of the 80s guitar heroes, is it was kind of about the showy aspect of playing guitar as well. So that looks really cool, and it looks way harder to do than it actually is. Thank you all so much for watching this video on 5 techniques you can learn from 5 underrated 80s rock guitar players. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you've taken some of these tips and used them in your own playing. Let us know down below in the comments who your favourite 80s guitar player is and what kind of tricks they have that got you interested in the guitar. If there's anything we missed, throw them down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lick Library YouTube channel for more content just like this. And if you enjoy these videos and you'd like to see anything similar, let us know that down below as well. If you're looking to take your guitar playing to that next level, head over to licklibrary.com, check out the lesson library over there. There's a huge array of content featuring artist-style videos, featuring some of the artists I've talked about in this lesson, as well as a bunch of other great content that's going to push you as a guitar player. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon.